Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at EX2, and EX2, even though it is a smaller set compared to a normal booster, it still has lots of new and powerful cards to build some fun and exciting decks out of. And today's deck is going to be the Sakuyamon deck. So Sakuyamon did get some support all the way back in BT05 with its first Renamon line, but this new Renamon line is playing a little bit different than the old one, and it's more focused around the utilization of our tamers and options to try to make our Digimon as powerful as they possibly can be. So without further ado, onto the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm only going to be running 4 copies of Pokomon. If you wanted to run a 5th Digitama, then you can, and it could be anything you feel like you wanted to use, but I feel like in a stacked deck like this, usually you just want to be as consistent as you possibly can with your Tamas, and Pokomon is going to be the preferred Tama for its consistency engine. So what it's doing that's allowing us to be as consistent as we possibly can is that it has this inheritable ability where during your turn, once per turn, when you use an option card with a play cost of 2 or more, then we get to draw a card, essentially replacing the option that we're using, so we always have a consistent flow of good card draw. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Cutemon. So Cutemon is kind of a flex spot for the deck. It could really be anything you wanted it to be in terms of your rookies, but I do just like those anti-meta floodgate cards. So what Cutemon is doing is it has the ability to shut off the opponent's ability to reduce their Digivolution costs, forcing them to deal with Cutemon before they can make some of those actions. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of the brand new Renamon. So this is the EX Renamon, and this Renamon is going to act as the digger for the deck. So it has a nice on-play ability where we get to reveal the top 4 cards of our deck, and then we get to add 1 card with a Kyubimon, Taomon, or Sakuyamon in its name, and 1 Rika from among them into your hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So it's just literally looking for the whole Renamon line outside of Renamon to try to make the deck as consistent as it possibly can. Then it has a nice inheritable ability for us to take advantage of, where during your turn, once per turn, when you use an option card with a memory cost of 2 or more, then we get to gain 1 memory to make the use of those options even more efficient, making it so it's easier for us to play them. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Pulsemon. So the promo Pulsemon is another flex spot for the deck. It could really be whatever rookie you feel like you want to use, but I do think Pulsemon is just one of the best generic rookies that we have to play with in yellow. So he just has a nice on-play ability where if we have 3 or more cards in our security, then we get to draw a card. If we have 3 or less, we get to gain a memory, and if we're at exactly 3, then we gain both effects, making him just a very well-rounded rookie. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Patamon. So this is the starter deck Patamon, and this is just helping with our overall memory manipulation. So his inheritable ability states that during your turn, when an opponent's Digimon is deleted by having its DP dropped to 0, then we get to gain 1 memory, and we are going to be playing around with some DP reduction, so it's going to be a card to help our efficiency when we're deleting the opponent's Digimon. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Turuiemon. So this is another flex spot in the deck. It could be, again, anything you want it to be, but I do think Turuiemon is really good just because he's a very solid tempo card, allowing us to evolve into our higher stages as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can, because he evos for 1, and if we need him to aggress, the 6000 DP actually could come in handy. Even though he doesn't have any abilities, that's fine, he's just in here purely for the tempo. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Kazemon, and I think the utilization of Kazemon to help act as an alternate win condition to help our overall aggression is really, really good, because we could Digivolve her on top of one of our tamers to then be able to swing for the game with, most likely. And then the last level 4 of the deck is going to be 4 copies of the brand new Kyubimon. So what this Kyubimon is doing is it's interacting with our plugins by acting as a search tool for those plugins. So she has a when Digivolving ability where we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck, add 1 option with plugin in its name from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom, and the plugins are going to be our primary options. Then she also has a nice inheritable ability for when we're climbing up the stages, where during your turn, once per turn, when you use an option card that costs 2 or more, one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 2000 DP, adding to the overall control elements and aspects that the deck also wants to lean into. Next, on to the level 5s, I'm going to be running 3 copies of RizeGreymon. So RizeGreymon is a very solid card to help us play our Tamers, and our Tamers will just help our overall resource and value engine of the deck. So when we Digivolve up into RizeGreymon, we get to play 1 yellow Tamer from our hand for free. We don't get its on-play effect, but that's okay, because none of them really have on-play effects, for us to try to take advantage of, making RizeGreymon just a very good card to easily get those Tamers out. Then he also has a nice inheritable ability for us to take advantage of to help with the overall damage output and aggression that the deck could have, where during your turn, while you have 3 or more yellow Tamers in play, then this Digimon gains security attack +1 to allow our Sakuyamon to hit as hard as she possibly can. And then the last level 5 of the deck is going to be 4 copies of the brand new Taomon. So the brand new Taomon is another card that's just helping us play our Tamers, and the Tamer she's helping us play, more specifically, is going to be our Rika. So when we Digivolve into our Taomon, then we get to play 1 Rika from our hand for free, again, just utilizing our level 5s to help play our Tamers, so that way we could be as set up as we possibly can to make powerful turns happen. Then she has a nice inheritable ability that's acting very similar to Kyubimon, where during your turn, once per turn, when you use an option card that costs 2 or more, then you get to have one of the opponent's Digimon get minus 2000 DP for the turn. Again, trying to combine all of these different sources of DP reduction to be able to delete the opponent's Digimon. And then the last Digimon of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Sakuyamon. So Sakuyamon is just the big boss monster of the deck, and if you wanted to run a supporting Mega, then you're more than welcome to. It's just Sakuyamon is 110% the focus on what the deck is trying to do. So she has this nice when Digivolving ability where we get to unsuspend one of our Digimon, and for each Tamer we have in play, then we get to return 1 option with plugin from our trash back to our hand. So the more Tamers we have, the more options we'll be able to get back to be able to utilize for their various different abilities. On top of the fact that just the act of unsuspending one of our Digimon, namely her, is going to allow us to multi-swing to try to make as powerful of plays as we possibly can in terms of our overall aggression. Then she has a nice secondary ability where during your turn, when you use an option card that costs 2 or more, one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 3000 DP for the turn, again, doubling down on that DP reduction to be able to have different ways to utilize it, whether it's going to be splitting it apart on multiple different Digimon or stacking it all on one to try to delete that one bigger Digimon. Just makes Sakuyamon a very flexible Digimon to utilize. And speaking of our plugins, next onto our options, I'm going to be running 1 copy of High Speed Plugin D. So High Speed Plugin D allows us to utilize the card even though it's blue for any color as long as we have a Tamer in play, which the deck has easy ways of getting out. Then its main ability, what we're trying to actually gain out of the card is one of our Digimon is going to gain jamming for the turn, and it can't be blocked by the opponent's Digimon. So it's just a good card to help make our Digimon as safe to aggress as we can possibly make it. Then it also has a security ability where we get to draw a card and add this card into our hand, helping again with the overall card draw of the deck to make it flow and function a little bit better. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Super Evolution Plugin S. So Super Evolution Plugin S allows us to draw 1 card from our hand. Then we get to Digivolve into a Digimon card from our hand with a Digivolution cost of 3 or less for free. So essentially for 2, you're just going to turbo into your level 6, which is pretty good. If you wanted to, you could also use this to turbo into your level 5s. So there's just some good flexibility on how we could try to evolve as quickly as we possibly can to outpace the opponent. Then it also has the security ability where we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck, add 1 Digimon card from among them into our hand, and the rest go to the bottom, and this card goes into our hand. So again, just like the other plugin, it's just helping in security with the overall consistency of the deck. And then the last plugin is going to be Attack Plugin A at 1 copy. it has the main ability to help with our overall damage output, with giving one of our Digimon security attack +1 for the turn. Then on top of that, its security ability, like the other plugins, again, will just help with the consistency of the deck, where we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck, add 1 Tamer card from among them into our hand, and then place the rest on the bottom in any order. So between all of our plugins, we get to potentially draw a card, find a Digimon, and find a Tamer, all to help set it up, while adding these cards into our hand to be able to use at any time, because, well, we're an option-based deck. And then as far as our other options go, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Reinforced Memory Boost because, well, we can only run 1 copy of this card anyway. So it does cost 6, but that's okay because 6 is more than 2, so our abilities utilizing our options will still trigger even when we're using this card. And what we're using this card for is the main ability to look at the top 2 cards of our deck, then put one of them into our security face down on top of our security stack, and then the other one into our hand, and this card into the battle area, to be able to utilize its delay ability to gain 3 memory at a later turn, which is just a lot of extra tempo, on top of the fact that it is also healing us and rigging our security in our hand all at the same time, making it just one of the best yellow options for us to use. And then the last option of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Yellow Memory Boost. So this is another flex spot for the deck, so it could really be whatever option you feel like wanting to run, especially if you wanted to add in some extra removal, then this would be the slot to use it with. So what I'm using Yellow Memory Boost for is just more consistency because I'm trying to build a more particular stack. So this just helps with finding the parts and pieces because we get to reveal the top 4 cards of our deck and then add 1 yellow Digimon from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom in any order, with this card going into the battle area for its delay ability of gaining 2 memory at a later turn, which we could use to help make more powerful plays. And then lastly, onto the Tamers, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Mimi. So we are an option-based deck, so running Mimi only makes sense. If we wanted to splash some purple options in the deck as well because we're running Mimi, that's totally okay, just because there's some really good purple options, but regardless, we're just using Mimi to help make our options more efficient overall to use. So she has this nice ability where during all turns, when a player uses an option card, then we could suspend this Tamer to gain 1 memory, not only potentially making our options cheaper to use, but also taxing the opponent if we play our cards right. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of TK and Kari. So TK and Kari is just trying to help us gain some additional memory. You don't necessarily need to run TK and Kari, but it's still a good card because it de-incentivizes the opponent from wanting to attack you. So it has this nice ability where at the start of your turn, if you have fewer cards in your security than your opponent, then you get to gain 2 memory. So that's just what's allowing us to potentially gain a lot of memory and to keep us in the game a little bit longer. Then it's also adding some more control elements into the deck with its secondary ability where during your turn, when a yellow Digimon attacks, we could suspend this Tamer to give one of your opponent's Digimon minus 1000 DP. So with just 1 TK and Kari on the field and a full Sakuyamon stack, we could reduce the opponent's Digimon by 8000 DP, which is pretty decent, especially since we have different ways to be able to split up that DP reduction. And then the last Tamer of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Rika. So Rika is going to be the deck's dedicated memory fixing Tamer, so if our memory is ever less than 3, she'll just always hard set it to 3. Then she has some really good interaction with how the deck wants to flow and function, where during your turn, when your Digimon with Renamon, Kyubimon, Taomon, or Sakuyamon in its name attacks, we get to suspend this Tamer to be able to use one of our options with plugin in its name from our hand for free. So the more Rikas that we have, the more plugins that we could use, and we want to use our Sakuyamon to be able to re-grab our plugins to do more powerful things. So the whole idea is trying to line up like a Taomon play, where we could have our Taomon gain jamming, security attack +1, swing, digivolve into Sakuyamon, grab back our plugins, add more security attack, swing again, and do various other high damage things to close out the game as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can. And that's also why we're running RizeGreymon, to also help support the fact that we want to play our Rikas as quickly as we possibly can, to be able to use our plugins as efficiently as we can, which is the whole goal of what the deck is trying to do. And then there's still just a lot of room for customization and flexibility depending on the type of sub-packages you want to run, just because we only have about half of our engine and we know that we're going to be getting the other half in a later set. But regardless, there's still just a lot of different possibilities. So if you wanted to run a little bit more Renamon Tribal, then we do have a card like Kazemon that acts as a really good passive card to help with the overall efficiency and power of our deck while interacting with our Renamons. Then, speaking of our Renamons, we even have the BT5 Renamon line that we could play with to try to help debuff the opponent's Digimon, whether it's on the field or in their security. And to cap off that line, we do have the other Sakuyamon that is going to try to turn off some of the opponent's aggression, especially out of raising, while again continue to debuff the opponent's security to make it easier for us to swing into. Then, if you wanted to, you could play the Lord Knightmon package, and part of the Lord Knightmon package is Starmons to add some extra control into the deck, because Lord Knightmon's going to have the ability to play our level 3s for free, and this also could coincide with playing our BT05 Renamon as well. But like I stated, Lord Knightmon is still just one of the best generic yellow level 6s that we have, just because of how strong you can make Lord Knightmon. Even though it doesn't have any particular synergy with the deck, it's still just a very solid standalone card. But if you wanted to, you could also think about utilizing the Yellow Hybrid package and the Yellow Hybrid engine, just because Sakuyamon already wants to be playing with our Tamers, and we have cards to help play our Tamers, and the Hybrid package could just utilize our Tamers in various different ways. And then the last notable package that we could run is splashing in some Suzy and the Lotmon package, just because we don't necessarily need a supporting Mega as long as we could find our main Mega. Suzy is just another good card to help it utilize our Lotmons and Intilimons to be able to draw extra cards and to be able to set up our Lotmons to have extra bodies on the field, with the Intilimon being able to warp up from a Lotmon into a level 5 to speed up going into our level 6, and so on. Then we do just have a solid amount of other generic cards that we could think about running, so if you wanted to run a little bit more recovery, then we could run the promo Patamon, or we could even run BT02 Salamon with its on-delete effect to try to help us recover as well. Then if we're just looking for more tempo cards, we do have Pidomon to act as a blocker as well as being a tempo card to digivolve cheaply and efficiently with. And if we want some more DP reduction in Digimon form, then we could even play Rapidmon or even RizeGreymon, just because, again, they're interacting with our Tamers. And then if you just want another generic level 6 to go into, then we even have Ophanimon Fall Down mode to lean into for some extra recovery and possibly some extra control, as well as Chimeramon is another possible level 5 to try to stack our inheritables a little bit better to make our stack a little bit more clean. Then we do have Chaosmon Volderarm for some more DP reduction and possible memory gaining. Then we do have a slew of other option cards that we could think about utilizing that could do multiple different things, such as recover and gain us some extra memory. So we could run Tactical Retreat, we could run Holy Wave, or we could run Blinding Ray for some extra memory. Then we do have a slew of different control type tools for us to utilize, so if we wanted to, we could utilize Wyvern's Breath or Eden's Javelin as two very powerful option cards to double down on some DP reduction. And then as far as some alternative tamers, we could think about running Alice McCoy, so if you are trying to go with like a Lord Knightmon engine, we could use those extra bodies Lord Knightmon is utilizing to make going up our stages a little bit easier. But we also have other yellow tamers to think about if you're going to be going a little bit more into the yellow hybrid package. But that just goes to show that there's a whole bunch of different ways to be able to build and iterate on Sakuyamon to be able to find what works and what doesn't to make her as powerful as we possibly can while we wait for the other half of her supports to come in a later set. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.